So start Corey.
হ্যাঁ করো।
Alright, so today we will be learning about pulse width modulation using Arduino. So first I'll explain about PWM, which is the pulse width modulation. I'll explain like how it works inside a microcontroller. Then I'll start with the code and I'll explain the different registers as we go along the code. Next. Alright, so why do we need pulse width modulation basically in an Arduino? So in an Arduino, the voltages that an Arduino can give as output are like 0 volt and 5 volt. But what if we need an intermediate voltage, or we need to create a sine wave or other waveforms, waveforms and generate it as an output from an Arduino? So to generate different waveforms and to generate intermediate voltages between 0 and 5 volt, we use pulse width modulation. Now I'll explain that how does it work exactly. Alright. Everyone can see this OCNA or OCNB thing, set, clear, set, clear, set, right? Alright, so what we do is a pulse, we set it high for an amount of time, and then we set it low for an amount of time. Suppose suppose we have a pulse which stays on for time t and stays off for time t again. Like from 0 to t, it is on and has a value of voltage V. And from t to 2t, the value of voltage is 0. So on an average, from 0 to 2t, the voltage supplied is 0.5 volt, right? Because from 0 to t time, the voltage supplied is 1 volt. So the area is 1 into t, which is t. And from t to 2t, the voltage supplied is 0. So the area is 0. So on an average from 0 to t, the average voltage is 0.5 volt. When we keep this at like half duty cycle, when the equal time, it is on and off for equal times, the duty cycle is called 50%. If we suppose keep it on for suppose a time t and keep it off for a time of 3t, and let us say that the whole time period is of 4t, then it is 25% duty cycle. So if the high voltage is 5 volt, then since the duty cycle is 25%, for the whole time period, the average voltage will be 25% of 5 volt, which is 1.25 volt. Now I'll explain how does the microcontroller come to know that when it is supposed to set the voltage and when it is supposed to reset the voltage. Now setting the voltage means setting it to high, and resetting the voltage means setting it to 0. Alright, these are the terms that are being used in the microcontroller. Setting means setting it to high voltage, and clearing means setting it to 0. Clearing or reset. Okay. So here you can see the terms up counter and down counter. What are these? A microcontroller has a counter, all right. So suppose a microcontroller, when we say the clock frequency of a microcontroller is 1 megahertz or like 2 to the power 16 or like anything, what does it mean? It means that in 1 second, the microcontroller can count from 0 to 1 megahertz, which is from 0 to 1 million. All right. So suppose in here, suppose in the graph that you can see here, the up counter and down counter graph, you can see at the top of the triangle, cutting at the y-axis. Okay, all right. Let this value be top. All right, top. What is top? Top is the value till which the microcontroller will count, and then it will start back counting from there. Like suppose if I keep the value of top to be 255. All right. So the microcontroller will start counting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it will reach to 255, and then it will again count back from 255 to 0. All right, that is the down counter. Okay. Right, now let me explain to you by an example. Suppose the clock frequency of a microcontroller is 1000. All right, 1000 hertz or like 1000. So the microcontroller can count from 0 to 1000 in 1 second. All right. And suppose I set the top value. I set the value of top as 100. All right. So you see, so the triangle to start from this triangle will start from the origin. It will reach till 100 and then it will again come down to 100. Mind the slope here is 1. The slope here is 45 degrees. So it will start from 0. It will count till 100. Then it will back count from 100 to 0. So you can see the total time it takes is 200. Alright. I told you that the microcontroller, if the clock frequency is 1000, it can count up to 1000 in 1 second. So here I told that the top it will go to 100 and from 100 it will back count to 0. So basically it is counting till 200 for one cycle. For the time period of for this triangle, it is reaching the value of top and then it is coming to the bottom again. So it is taking a time of 200. So how many cycles are possible? The cycles possible are 5. Alright, the cycles possible are 5. So here you see, how did we find the number of cycles? The number of cycles is the frequency of the pulse. How did we define it? In 1 second, the microcontroller could count till 1000. Alright, I set the top as 100. Alright, I set the top as 100. Now for one cycle, the time taken is 2 into top. Alright, for one cycle, the time taken is 2 into top. So on the left side, you can see the equation FOCNX. This is nothing but the frequency of the wave that we are giving. Alright, the frequency of the wave is equal to the clock frequency divided by 2 into top. You got the factor why we are multiplying twice into top, because the whole time period is just the one single time period is twice the value of top. All right. Now coming to the n. All right. So suppose we have a microcontroller which can count to 1 megahertz in 1 second. All right. So what if I want the microcontroller to count slow? What if I want the microcontroller to not count 1 megahertz in 1 second, but I want it to count only 1000 in 1 second or 2000 in 1 second? So what we do, we divide the speed of the clock by n. So basically, if I divide the speed of the microcontroller by n, which is generally in the powers of 2, like generally the value of 2 varies from 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64 in the powers of 2, exponents of 2. So if we slow down the clock, it is very obvious that the frequency of the pulse will also slow because we are counting slower. All right. Okay. So now let me explain that how is it working. Suppose I set a value, like let us take an example that the value of top is 255. All right. So I have told the microcontroller that when you're starting to count from 0 to 255, when you encounter the value, say 190, say you are encountering the value, say 190, then you set the bit to low. All right, it is initially high. From 0 to 190 it will be high. As soon as it encounters the value 190, it will be set low. All right. So in this curve that you see, it is set in the beginning. All right. Leave the first time period because that is just for explanation. From the second time period, the functioning starts. All right. For explanation purposes, the set and the clear was not shown in the first time period. In the second time period, see, from this red point, here you can see that say this is the value 190. All right. Say this is the value 190. So as soon as the microcontroller reaches this value, it sets the value of the pulse to 0. All right. Now it is again counting from 190 to 255. All right. So as soon as it reaches 255, it again starts back counting from 254, 253, 252. Then again, as soon as it reaches 190, while back counting, it will again set the bit high. All right. Now this is the non-inverting mode. The first graph that you are saying where you can see the two arrows, this is the non-inverting mode. At first it encountered 190 while up counting. While up counting, it was cleared. And then while down counting, it was again set. So we can say this as clear while clear while up counting, and set while down counting. Coming to the inverting mode. In the inverting mode, can you please move the slide a little bit up? The second graph is not properly visible. Yes, okay. In the second graph, you see here what we have done is that when it encounters the bit of 190, it will be set, and then while down counting, when it encounters, it will again be cleared. All right. So this is the inverting mode. We'll be using both the pulses in our code. I'll explain how it works. Now, can you just zoom out? All right. So here you can see like this is where we are showing the two pulses, and here in the left, at the left top corner, we have defined, like, we have for like simplicity, we have just shown one pulse. In simple words, see, it starts counting. As soon as it encounters, it sets the bit to high, and then as soon while down counting, it encounters the value, it again sets the bit to low. Next slide. All right. So in the previous slide, what we did is we did the pulse width modulation. We set for what amount of time in a time period the value of the pulse will be high. The percentage of time in a time period for which it remains high is defined as the is defined as a duty cycle. Is my voice audible? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Screen bondo hoi gechilo tai. All right. So now here what I'm going to explain is dead time. All right. Suppose in the first wave I say that it remains on for 50% of the time and it remains off for the other 50% of the time. All right. So the yellow wave, as you can see, it is on for 50% of the time and off for the rest of the 50% of the time. So let us consider this as the inverting wave and the blue wave as the non-inverting wave. All right. So in the non-inverting wave, the blue wave, here we have not set it to 50%. The blue wave, we have set it to say it will remain on for 40% of the time and stay off for 60% of the time. Okay. So had both the waves been 50% at 50%, then if we would have superposed the waves or added both the waves, we would have always got a value in the output. Like this, if we had done the summation of the waves, we would have always got a value for the summation of two waves. But in this case, when the second wave remains on for 40% of the time, and the first wave remains off for the 50% of the time, you see there is a time. There's a time of 10% here in total, for which both the pulses are off. All right. So the time when both the pulses are off, this is defined as dead time. All right. This is defined as dead time. How do you calculate a dead time? Dead time is nothing. Dead time is basically the overlapping value. Suppose, as you can see, it is on for 50% of the value, it is off for 40% of the value. Leave the 40% and 50%. Let's come into bits, like how I explained in 255 and like that. All right. So suppose I say that the yellow wave remains on for 512 bits and remains off for 512 bits. All right. Whereas the blue wave, it remains on for only 400 bits and remains off for the rest of the time. All right. So what is the common gap between 400 and 512, which is 112 bits. All right. So the dead time for one time period will be 112 bits. So what is my total time? My total time in one time period is 512 plus 512, which is 1024. The dead time is a fraction of it, which is in this case 112 bits. So 112 bits by 1024 is my dead time of the time period. How can we calculate the time period? Time period is as simple. We divide the clock frequency by the frequency of the pulse. That will give us the time period. All right. Next slide.
Can you explain this once more?
Explain this which part?
The thing that you said right now about calculating the dead time.
About calculating the dead time, in simple words, like suppose I say that the yellow wave, all right, the yellow wave, it remains on for 512 from count of 0 to 512 and remains off for a count from 512 to 1023, all right.
Yeah.
And the 40% the blue wave, it remains on from 0 to 400 and remains off, it remains off for like 0 to 600 and something, and remains off for the rest of the voltage, which is 624 to 1023. All right. So what
Then how
is
come
the
it is 50%? Because out of
I'm giving an example. You cannot like the example I'm giving with the bits has got nothing to do with the 40% and 50%. I've just taken arbitrary values to explain.
Acha, okay.
Dead time is nothing but the common time for which it is going to be off. Move to the first slide once. With the diagram, like second slide, I mean. Just since you have asked, if you see, like suppose for the first wave, I say that at the red point, all right, it sets the value to up, and at the orange point, it sets the value to low, all right. Suppose for another wave, I take the value even lower, all right. For the non-inverting mode, I set the value even lower. Like the red point is higher, I set it lower. Say around it encounters the value to be set even earlier. Yes, you see that red line, the intersection of the red line with the triangle. I say that when you encounter this point, you go low. All right. So you understand it will be low till it encounters that red line on the right side of the triangle again.
Okay.
Shreya is drawing the other part also. Yes, yes. You see this red pit type thing beside clear. Alright. So it is off for more amount of time than the other one is on. Alright. So basically the other pulse is off for a greater amount of time than the other pulse is on in the time period. So there will be a time where both the pulses are off. Alright. So what is the time? The time is nothing. The time is basically twice of the difference between the comparing the voltages. Like here, the red point and the other red point. There are 2 points, right? One I have set. One was there in the alright. In the first triangle, you see there is one orange point, and again there is a red point. Alright. So the difference between this time, if you multiply it by 2, that will be your dead time. Alright. Now I'll be moving to the code. Alright. So basically in the code, we have the basic how we start the AVR functions. We have the main function. In the main function, we have the pin configuration function, which will be defined later. And we have the timer initialization function that also will be defined later. Alright. So in the main function, we have kept this while as an infinite loop. This is because the interrupt service routine has to work infinitely. If you do not give this while loop, you won't get any output because the program will finish. And to get an output, you have to be in the main function while the program runs. So this infinite while loop, so that the ISR, the interrupt service routine, keeps working, and you do not get exited out of the program. Coming to the function of void pin configuration. All right. All of you can see there's DDRB. All right. DDRB stands for Port B Data Direction Register. Alright. In an Arduino, you see there are 6 analog pins and there are 13 digital pins. Alright. So the 6 analog pins, they come under port C. Alright. The 6 analog pins, they come under port C. Alright. The digital pins from 0 to 7. From 0 to 7, these digital pins, they come under port D. They come under port D. And from 8 to 13, this come under port B. Alright. So when I talk about DDRB is nothing. It is just that we are setting the values from 8 to 13. We are setting the values of the pins from 8 to 13. Alright. So the least significant bit of DDRB, the least significant bit of DDRB, it stands for the 8th pin, like pin number 8, where you can see PBO ICP1 clock 0. Refer to the Arduino picture. Pin 8 refers to the least significant bit of DDRB. Alright. The second bit from the right side, refers to pin 9. The third bit from the right side refers to pin 10, and subsequently, respectively, we just name the pins like that. Alright. So here, as you can see, we have set the second bit from the right and the third bit from right to 1. What does this mean? We have set pin number 9 and pin number 10 as output. Alright. Setting them to 1 means they will be acting as output pins. And the pin number 8, 11, 12, 13, these pins will be acting as input ports because we have set them to 0. Alright. In our program that we will be running in this simulation, we won't be needing the input ports, so we need not worry about that. So we have just set the output ports here, port number 9 and port number 10. Next. So now we come to the void timer initialize function. Alright, it is basically we are initializing the timer. This is the status register as I had explained in the previous video, SREG. Here the 7th bit, like if we count from the right side is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7th bit we set as 1. What is this? This is the global interrupt enable. If we set this bit to 1, only then can other interrupts can be enabled. This is the global interrupt. For enabling other inputs, we require the SREG's 7th bit to be set to 1. Otherwise, none of the interrupt will work. Alright. TCNT1. TCNT1 is nothing. This is a register which helps us to access the timer counter. Like we are accessing the counter of the microcontroller, right? To count the values, to set the voltages, we are taking the counter of the microprocessor as the reference. So to access this, access the clock of the microcontroller, we need this TNCT1. Coming to TCCR1A and TCCR1B. Alright, I would like you all to read this part. This is the most important part of the whole thing. You need to understand these two registers very important, very properly. Alright, TCCR1A and TCCR1B. These are TC1 control register A and TC1 control register B. Alright. For any pulse that we produce out of the digital pin of an Arduino, for any pulse, we need to have attributes from both these registers. The values of both these registers will define the nature of the pulse that we are going to see as output. Alright. Now I'll be explaining to you all how. In the TCCR1A, the most significant 4 bits, they set the compare value. Like basically, as I said that the pulses can be formed in 2 modes, inverting mode and non-inverting mode. So we need to tell the microcontroller, right, that which pulse acts like what. So let us name the two pulses. Let us name the two pulses as OC1A and OC1B. All right. Let us name the two pulses as OC1A and OC1B. So the 7th and the 6th bit, the first two most significant bit of the TCC R1A, the 7th and the 6th bit tell us the non-inverting or the inverting mode of the OC1A pulse. All right. And the 5th and the 4th bit, which here is 1 and 0, this tell us about the nature, inverting and non-inverting of the B pulse, which is OC1B pulse. All right. Reference table. All right, as you can see here, the value there in the TCC R1A register, you see this is COM1, COM2, COM1, like this, all the 7, 6, 5, 4, all these bits are basically for checking the comparison value. All right, move to the table. All right, you see we had set the TCC R1A as 1110. All right. So I told you that 7th and the 6th bit represent the value, represent the mode of operation for the OC1A wave. All right. So 11 is set OC1 on compare match when up counting. All right. So what will it do? It will be zero initially till it reaches the count. All right. It will be zero initially till it reaches the count. All right. As you can see, the 1 1, it is, we are talking about just the one pulse. We are not talking about the other pulse right now. We are talking about only one pulse. We have set it to 1 1 as the 7th and the 6th bit. So what will it do? It will set the value high by up counting. So from 0 till it reaches a value, it will be 0. As soon as it encounters that count, it will set the value of the pulse to high. All right. Then again it will count to the top value. Then it will again start back counting from the top value to the OCR value, and as soon as it encounters the value again, it will set the clear on compare match when down counting. All right. So it is basically set when up counting and clear when down counting. Coming to the second pulse. The second pulse we have set in the 1-0 mode. All right, 1-0. You remember we have set the 5th and the 4th bit of the TCC R1A register to 1-0. So it is doing just the opposite of the first pulse. What is it doing? It is clearing when it reaches when it encounters the OCR value at up counting. All right. So it is initially high. Initially from 0 till it reaches a certain value that we have set, it will be high. And then as soon as it encounters the value, it will be low. It will reach the top value. It will back count till that value again. And then it will again become high. All right. So these two waves are basically complementary of each other. All right. Again, move to the code once. All right. So now we come to the last bits of TCC R1A. The last bits of the TCC R1A, these help us to determine the one second. All right. So the TCC R1A, the last two bits of the TCC R1A are for the wave generator mode, but for any pulse, as I told that we need attributes from both the registers. All right. we have TCC R1A and we also have TCC R1B. All right. So for generation of the wave, all right, I told you that we need to set a top value. All right. So how do we tell the microcontroller the top value? All right. For telling the microcontroller the top value, we need the last two bits of TCC R1A, and we also need the fourth and the fifth bit. Not the third and the fourth, like it has been encircled wrong here. We need the fourth and the fifth bit. All right, the fourth and the fifth bit of TCC R1B. All right. Share, please draw it again. All right, so you can see this fourth and the fifth bit and the seventh and the sixth bit. The combination of these two, the combination from the TCC R1B register and the seventh and the sixth bit of the TCC R1A register, these tell us about the top value, and it also tells us that we are running the microcontroller in phase correct mode or false or fast PWM mode. All right, move to the reference table. All right, you see here WGM 1300, 13 and 12 as 00 and 10, 11 and 10 as 11. Move to RCC1 and RCCB table. All right, as you can see here, the first and the 0th bit here of TCC control register A is WGM11 and WGM10. All right, WGM11 and WGM10. In the TC1 control register B, the value of the third and the fourth bit here is 5GM13, is WGM13 and WGM12. All right. All right. So we have set the value in the code there as 00 for WGM13 and WGM12, and we have set the value for WGM11 and WGM10 as 11 in the code. If you see the TCC R1A and TCC R1B, you will see that we have set 11 and 10 as 11 and 13 and 12 as 00. Move to the table. All right. So you see here we have set as 0011. So what is the mode of operation? Mode of operation is PWM phase correct 10 bit. All right. So when we say 10 bit, we have set the top value. The top value is in one cycle, it will count from 0 to 1024 and then it will count back from 1024 to 0. All right. Basically, it is not 1024, it will count from 0 to 1023 and from there it will back count to 0 again. Alright, 0 to 1023 is 1024 values. Alright, so here you see top here it is written 0x03ff. What is 0x? Whenever we write 0x before a number, the numbers, the digits succeeding it are nothing but written in hexadecimal. Alright, if you convert this 16-bit 03ff to binary, this will result in nothing but 2 to the power 10. Alright, 03ff is 4 zeros, 0011 1111 1111. Alright, so this is nothing but this is 2 to the power 10. Alright, since we have set the mode of operation to 10 bit, we have set that from the least significant bit, if we start, we have set 10 bits to 1. Move to the code. All right. Now coming to the TIM SK1. All right. This is the timer counter interrupt mask register. All right.
Prescaler you tell.
Oh, all right, sir. Prescaler, right? All right. The prescaler bit, all right. The least three significant bits of the TCC R1B. The least three bits of the TCC R1B, those are the prescaler bits. In the beginning, while I was explaining pulse width modulation, I told you what if we want the clock of the microcontroller to run slow. All right. So by setting this prescaler values, we can control the speed of the microcontroller, the speed in which it can count in a second. All right. Move to the table. Here we have set it as 001. All right. See, you can see here TCC R1B, it is CS12, CS11, and this is CS10. All right. So here we come. We had set the values to 001, the second one in the table. Due to some error in the data sheet, the 0 has not come. But this is 001. This clock by 1. That is no prescaling. We are running the microcontroller in the natural speed of the microcontroller. All right. 0 is there. This is 001. We have not slowed down the speed of the microcontroller. But if we had changed the value to 010 or 011, we could have slowed down the value of the microcontroller by the value of 8, or we could have slowed down the value by 64. All right. Move to the code. Move to the code. All right. While she moves to the code, I'll be explaining in the code, as you had seen, the next value was TIMSK1. It stands for Timer Counter Interrupt Mask Register. All right.
I am sharing my screen. Is it not visible?
Yes, it is visible. It was not moving for a while, but now it is okay. All right. So in the TIMSK1, when the last bit, like the least significant bit, is written to 1, the timer counter is enabled. All right. The 0th bit here, it stands for overflow interrupt enable. All right. If you remember in the last video, we had talked about ADC enable. All right. Add-in like ADIE, ADC interrupt enable. Here similarly, for the counter to be enabled, the counter interrupt to be enabled, we need to set the 0th bit, that is the overflow interrupt enable for the timer counter, to 1. We also need the SREG to be set to 1 so that this interrupt can work. So we have already set SREG to 1, so it won't be a problem anymore. Does anyone have any questions till now? Because we are just the next part is very simple. So the complicated part was earlier. So if you have any questions, please ask. All right, so I'll proceed. So this is the last part of the code, which is the interrupt service routine. All right. The interrupt service routine is not a function. It is a routine. What it does is, here we have set we have given the input argument as timer1 OVF vect. All right. What is this? This is basically the address of the timer counter. All right, which is present in the vector table. When we give this as an argument to an interrupt routine, it gets access to the address of the interrupt from the vector table. All right. All right. Now here we have set the OCR1A equals 512 and OCR1B to 450. All right. What is it? If you remember, we have operated the pulse in a 10-bit module. All right. So what is 10-bit? It is 10-bit is 2 to the power 10, which is 1023, from 0 to 1023. All right. So from 0 it will count to 1024, then it will back count from 1024 to 0. Alright, this is what we have defined as one cycle for our microcontroller. So in this one cycle, what we have told the microcontroller that when you encounter 512, when counting from 0 to 1024, when you reach 512, the OCR1A, if you remember, we had told that set while up counting. So it will initially be 0 from a count of 0 to 512. As soon as it encounters 512, OCR1A pulse will be set to high. Alright, it will remain high throughout the duration when the microcontroller counts from 512 to 1024, and then down counts from 1024 to 512 again. Alright, during this whole duration, the OCR1A pulse will be high. Alright, because we had set the mode as set while up counting and clear while down counting. Alright. The OCR1B pulse. Alright. The OCR1B pulse, it will initially be high. Alright. From 0 to 450, it will initially be high. If you remember, we have said this in the 1-0 mode. In the 1-0 mode, what it does, it clears when it reaches the OCR value, clear when up counting, and set while down counting. Alright. So what will it do? It will remain high from 0 to 450. Then again it will remain low from 450 to 1024, and also remain low for from down counting from 1024 to 450. Alright. And then while down counting from 450 to 0, while down counting 450, 449, 448, it will again become high. Alright. Now move to the circuit. The circuit is very simple. Circuit, we have connected an oscilloscope. This is a digital oscilloscope. In practical values, since we are running the simulation on Proteus, you will see a direct rectangular waves you will be able to see. But actually, if you see, because of some errors, there is some curve, as sir had shown in the previous class. Alright, so this is the oscilloscope which is connected to the Arduino. Alright. Sure, you can stop sharing. I'll show the code and simulation now.
I had a question, a small doubt per se. Please help me out.
All right.
Yeah. So about the last of the ISR, which said it's not a function; it's a routine. Like, what's the basic fundamental difference between a function and a routine?
All right. What is a function? The function is that you need to call a function, right? We need to define a function. We need to call a function. All right. What does an interrupt service routine do? The interrupt service routine, the purpose, like the function, when the interrupt service routine runs, nothing else will run. All right. Like when one interrupt is working, no other interrupts will be able to work. What an interrupt does is it forces the microcontroller to access a particular state. In this case, it accesses a particular address in the vector table of the microcontroller. Alright, basically the input argument, we have given an address of the vector table. Alright, so in the interrupt service routine, what it will do, it gets the access to the vector table so that we can use the variables assigned in that address, assigned to the address of the vector table. We will be using those variables inside the interrupt service routine. Alright.
Right. Like, so the routine means that it does not need to be explicitly called, right? And
No, it is not.
while it is working, like, there is no other function or no other part of the code that will be running.
No, like suppose there is a value that has already been input or it has already been read, we can get access to that value, but while one interrupt is working, no other interrupt can work.
Yeah, that was about the interrupt. My question was like a difference between the function and a routine.
Alright, a function is basically it forces the microcontroller to stop everything and go to the address which has been put in as the input argument there.
And routine?
Oh, it is the whole thing together. Interrupt service routine. It's a routine. It repeats if we keep the conditions proper. Like here, the interrupt enable is always set to 1, so it will keep on repeating. It will keep going on. It won't stop till we give the command to stop, or like we stop the program.
But isn't that
Hello?
why like
Yeah.
while loop? The
No,
while
no.
loop.
Basically, a function is also a type of a routine that can return values, but a routine cannot return any values. That is the basic difference between a function and routine.
So like basic. So is it like similar to a constructor? Like, like why is routine similar to a constructor?
Or it
Like
is
a
routine.
constructor is a function which does not return any values. So if
No,
a
it is
routine
not
is just
something like that. It is not some like I don't know if it's similar or not because interrupt service routine is something which I have encountered the first time while doing microcontroller. I exactly don't know how it works inside the microcontroller, but all I know is that when the interrupt, when we like the interrupt is used to get access to an address in the vector table, and when an interrupt runs, nothing else can run.
clear.
But it is not a function because we are not calling the function, we are just directly using it.
Fine, fine. Take it.
A routine is kind of similar to a constructor. I don't know if they're exactly like the amount of similarities, but yes, they are kind of similar. I mean, if you see the functioning, then both of them function in a similar way.
Cool, 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 cool. Take it.
Alright, so this is the same code that you had seen in the PPT. So first I'll export the code to hexadecimal so that I can import it in the Proteus. Alright, so this is my circuit. So it's the same like from pin 9 we have connected the oscilloscope and from pin 10 we have connected B. So from pin 9 we will be getting the output of OCR1A and from pin B we will be getting the output of OCR1B. Alright. So now I'll upload the code here. Alright. Everyone can see the screen. Can
Yes,
everyone
it's
see the
visible. Yes, yes, it's visible.
So now I'll zoom in. Alright. If you see here, this yellow pulse, this is the OCR1A pulse. You remember we had set the value to 512 and we are running the microcontroller in the mode of 10 bit. Alright. So you see it is on for 50% of the time like 512 and it is off for the same amount of time. On the other hand, the other pulse which is OCR1B, it is on for only 450 bits, all right, for the count of 450, and it is off for the rest of the time, uh, which is 574, all right. For a value of 500, for a count of 574, it is off, all right. You see this time in the overlapping, this is the dead time. Wait a second, I'll lift it up a little more. All right. You see, this time is known as the dead time. Okay, this time, this overlapping time, both of the pulses are low. All right. both of the pulses are low for this duration, and this is known as the dead time, right? And the pulse width modulation for the first wave, the pulse width duty cycle is 50%. For the second pulse, it is 450 by 1024. Right? So that is the duty cycle of the second wave. Alright, now what I can do is I can show you in the code. I can change the values in the code. Say, suppose I change it to 512 only. Alright, 512. Go to Sketch, export, compile binary, go to Proteus, debug, stop ESM. Alright, so now you can see there is no dead time. Alright, both the pulses are on and off for the same time, 50%. So basically there is no dead time, zero dead time. They're on and off for the same amount of time. So if we superpose them, alright, if we superpose them, the value is always on. Alright, since there is a delay in the video, so wait for a second while you all can see. Let's see. The dead time here is 0. The output is always on. Alright. Sir, হয়ে গেছে স্যার। স্যার হয়ে গেছে।
আর কারো কিছু জিজ্ঞাসা আছে, কোশ্চেন আছে? Anybody have any question? Okay, then it was a very nice presentation. So I will give you some assignment, then you have to do it accordingly. Okay. So I think
Okay, sir.
It is late night. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody to attend. Bye. Good night.
Good night, sir.